This is Rebel Therapist, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are trained as therapists and who want to level up their businesses, make a bigger impact, feel fulfilled, and be very well paid. I'm your host, Annie Schusler. You may have noticed that just about every other episode at this point is an Ask Annie episode, where I expand on answering a question that I get from one of my incredible participants. So today, what I'm going to answer for you is, do I need to do a webinar to sell my program? And this is something that I get all the time. I help people create their marketing plans to actually sell their signature programs. And one thing I often recommend is to do a webinar. So we're talking about selling a signature program, which might be a small group coaching program. It might be a retreat or a course or some other wonderful offering that you've created. And so in answering this question, do I need to do a webinar to sell my program? I'll say right away, no, you don't have to, but I want you to try it because a webinar is going to help you connect with the people who you made your offer for in a way that's really hard to do through email or through social media or through any of the other avenues you might be using to sell your program. So what do I mean by a webinar? I'm talking about a planned, scheduled, free live presentation that people can register for by giving you their email address. And once they do that, they're on your email list. It's usually going to be 45 to 90 minutes long. It's usually going to be recorded, and you'll then give the recording to everyone who registered, whether or not they attended. So this is different from going live on Instagram or on another platform where you can just go live and anyone who happens to be there or who knew this was going to be happening can just click and watch. This is something where people needed to pre-register to get the invitation to know where to show up. So that's what I'm talking about today. Now, oh my God, the first webinar I ever gave was so painful for me. I was so uncomfortable with the technology. I felt excruciatingly self-conscious, and I was really distracted by how few people were in attendance. In fact, I was distracted that no one was in attendance. I think that maybe 10 people signed up because I didn't necessarily know what I was doing yet in terms of building my audience in general. So I think about 10 people signed up and no one came live. And so it wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience. And yet, I'm glad I did it. And in March of 2022, I just did 2 webinars. And although some things went wrong, which I'm going to tell you about in just a moment, they also went really well. And I now enjoy webinars. So I am not sharing this with you as someone who always found this easy. I'm really sharing this with you as someone who went through some excruciating moments. And now with my participants, my clients, the people who go through Create Your Program and who are in my mastermind, now when I watch their webinars or the recordings of their webinars, what I hear from them about how these webinars have gone is really different from what I see. Often, after one of my participants does a webinar, they'll tell me, oh, it went really terribly. I was really nervous. I forgot this or that. My tech was awful. It was a shit show. I'll hear something like that. And then when I go and I watch it, I see something really different. I see someone who absolutely knows this material, cares a ton about the people who are watching it or the people who are going to be watching the recording, and who has put together something really special. So even if you feel like, all right, my webinar is going to be a shit show, that's probably not what other people are experiencing. All right, here are some more reasons why it's worth it. I already mentioned that doing a webinar is a way to really connect with the people you made your offer for in a way that it's hard to do in other ways. It also helps you to grow your email list, which is really key to making money. And you can listen to an episode I did recently, another Ask Annie, where I answered, why is my email list growing so slowly? You can listen to that one to hear all about growing your email list, why you want to do it, and how to do it. And having webinars is one way to do it. Running a webinar gets you a lot of information about the people you're creating your offer for. You get to hear in real time what questions people have for you, where they are in their process, how they think about their problems, all of the things that you really want to know in not just creating your program, but making it better and better. So the information you get from people in that webinar and in the emails they send you after they've watched it, those are really valuable. It also helps people decide whether to work with you or not. So I'm not really into hardcore conversion tactics to try to get as many people as possible from that webinar to sign up for your offer. I think it's a really great opportunity for people to get a sense of you, get a sense of how you think, learn something from you, and that can help them make the right decision about whether or not to work with you. I also think this might be the most obvious one, but it allows you to give people value in a webinar that you have prepared, that you show up for with your full self. You're able to give people a lot of value in that 45 to 90 minute period. If you're an introvert or you have health issues or you have a limited schedule for any reason, I think delivering a webinar is such an efficient and impactful way to use your energy. So I would rather see you doing a webinar than a lot of other marketing activities. So I think this one is really worth trying. All right, let's talk about how to make webinars a better experience for you and for your participants. And so I'm going to go through a big list of ideas for you in really no particular order. And then I would love to hear from you. What else? What helps if you've been doing webinars? What helps them go well for you? What helps you give more value in your webinars? What did I miss? What did I leave out here? All right, number one, know that things can go wrong and that you are valuable and worthy no matter what happens on that webinar. I want to tell you that in my last webinar, a few things went wrong. The webinar platform didn't record. That was not our fault. It just didn't record. My microphone didn't work. Maybe that was partly my fault. So I had to just rely on my computer's internal microphone. I forgot how to use my slides properly, even though I've done it like over 100 times. I just couldn't remember what to click to use my slides properly. And it still went really well. I had fun. People got value. And in the last round of my program, over 60% of the people who signed up had attended one of the 2 webinars. Okay, so know that things can go wrong and that you are valuable and worthy no matter what happens. Even if something more than what I just named goes wrong, it's still okay. Number 2, solve the issue of what if no one shows up ahead of time. So I told you I've had that happen to me where no one shows up. Most entrepreneurs I know who do webinars have had that happen. Some ways to deal with that ahead of time. You can invite friends if that feels good to you, if it would be nice for you to have some folks. A lot of times people in my programs show up to each other's webinars to be there to support each other, to ask good questions. So invite your friends. Also, imagine a way to fall in love with that happening. Imagine a way to fall in love with no one coming to your webinar or only one person coming or your friends coming and no one else. Think about how that might, just this one time, actually be enjoyable for you, knowing that in the future you're going to have a lot of attendees. Also, talk to the people who are at the webinar, even if there's only one person there. Also, talk to the people who are watching the recording. So instead of only speaking to your live participants, make sure you fold in the people watching the recording so that you're remembering that even if no one's there, there are people who you're helping through this webinar. And another thing is invent questions that you're going to answer. So these are all ways to do number 2 here, which is solve the issue of what if no one shows up, so that you're not distracted by, oh my gosh, what if there's no one there? What if there's one person there? And you can just be relaxed and be present. Number 3 is practice the tech. So do a tech run through of your webinar just as if it is actually happening, all the way from the beginning through sharing the recording. Just make sure everything works. Number 4 is practice the material. You could do this at the same time as you practice the tech, or you could do it separately. Walk through the flow of it, the timing of it, and get really comfortable. You could do that part with other people or by yourself. I sometimes like to do that part in my car, all by myself. Number 5, before you jump into the juicy material of your webinar, make sure people know what to expect. So give people a bulleted outline before they even sign up, when they're registering for it. And then again, when they've signed up, have that outline in the email. And then finally, right at the beginning of the webinar, walk through that outline again so that they're giving full consent to be a part of what you're up to. And if you're going to pitch your program, which you absolutely should, make sure you include that in the outline so they know it's coming. That's going to actually give you a lot of permission to really give that pitch in a fully embodied way, that you know you've gotten buy-in from everybody that that's coming. Number 6, during the webinar, ask people to do what you want them to do. So if you want people to answer a question in chat, let them know. If you want them to answer a poll that you have in the webinar, let them know. Ask them to do what you want them to do. They need guidance. Number 7, pause. Tell people you need to gather your thoughts and pause from time to time. Allow yourself to have some water. Breathe. Let your nervous system slow down for a moment and do this as often as you need to. Don't feel like you have to talk nonstop throughout the entire webinar. Number 8, invite people to connect with each other. So sometimes you're going to do that by inviting them to introduce themselves in chat. In my last webinar, I actually encouraged people to go ahead and have side conversations in chat because I wanted them to feel fully present. And unlike in school, where people are discouraged from talking to each other, discouraged from passing notes, I wanted people to have that connection. Number 9, leave time for people to reflect and engage with the material. So this is beyond pausing when you need to pause. I feel like I learn the most when I have a chance to interact with the material that's being taught to me, and I know other people are the same way. So give them questions to ponder. Let them take at least a full minute to write and reflect when you give them one of those questions, and that's going to help them take in more. Number 10, use your slides as your notes. So this one is absolutely take it or leave it. This is my preference that I've landed on. I used to keep notes separate from my slides, some private notes that I could look at, partly because I was afraid I would forget to say some things that I wanted to say, but that I didn't want to have on my slides. But now I just have all my notes on my slides so that I can just focus on one thing and not have to look in other places. And that also means that if somebody wants my notes, I can just share my slides with them. So it's all there in one place. And that also means I just trust myself to say what I need to say, that when I see that slide, I'm going to be able to remember everything that's most important. Number 11, talk about the reasons and assumptions behind everything that you're teaching. I learned this from listening to the Afford Anything podcast that Paula Pant hosts. So rather than just teaching tactics, I now really try to spell out the larger ideas and the concepts and the assumptions behind those tactics. And that puts people in a better position to apply what I'm talking about to their own situation and not just follow the particular advice or the particular tactics that I'm talking about. And even if we think about this podcast episode as an example, I'm telling you about webinars, but I've also told you why I think webinars are a good idea, where they fit into an overall marketing strategy. So even if you decide, yeah, webinars are not for me, you'll know where I think they fit into your overall marketing plan, and that can help you make the right decision for you. Number 12, give examples and stories of what you're teaching. I think examples and stories really help the material come alive, and I love using examples. I often, with full consent, I often share the programs that my participants have created, and that really helps people understand niching and marketing and all of the things that I'm talking about so much better than if I just talk about these things in the abstract. Number 13, find the right webinar platform for you. So experiment with some different platforms, do some free trials, and see where you feel most at ease. It is helpful to look at what are the features that I really need, but then beyond that, don't worry about whether the platform that you're choosing has a cajillion other features that you don't actually need. Just choose a platform that works for you right now. Number 14, wear what you enjoy wearing, including on your face. So don't feel like you have to dress up or wear makeup or look a certain way if you don't usually wear makeup. Show up as the person your future participants are going to see when they work with you. So however you would be showing up in your program, that's a great way to show up on a webinar. And if you're someone who loves to be fabulous and glamorous in the webinar, in your program, everywhere, then fantastic. But if you're not someone who likes to do that, don't feel like you have to just because you're on a webinar. Number 15, have good lighting. Now, it might feel like that's in contradiction to what I just said about wear whatever the hell you want to wear, but I don't think it is. Having good lighting is really about connecting with your attendees. It's harder to connect with you if you're in the shadows. So if you don't have good natural lighting where and when you are during the webinar, it can help to invest in a softbox lighting kit or a ring light if you need it. Number 16, get into a comfortable and powerful position, whatever that means for you. So if you sometimes stand, try standing. It may make you feel more powerful. It may make you feel like you can project your voice, but it's not right for everyone. So if standing doesn't feel good to your body, try sitting in different ways and see where you feel most powerful and where you have the most energy. Number 17, have great sound. I think this is actually more important than the lighting stuff we were just talking about. Folks want to be able to hear every word without any effort. So invest in a good USB mic for about $100. And I would say do that right away. It's going to help you in other situations as well, like perhaps if you're a guest on a podcast. So go ahead and invest in that microphone, even though I know I just told you a little bit ago that my microphone wasn't connected to my computer in the last webinar I did, and I had to rely on the internal mic of my computer, and it was not the end of the world. Number 18, say, I don't know. When you don't know something, don't feel like you have to be the expert on everything or you have to know everything. I often say, like a million times, I say, I am not a legal expert. Or I'll say, I'm not an SEO expert. I turn to other people for that information, or I'm not a web designer. Whatever you don't know, go ahead and say that. And that actually builds trust. You're a superstar at some particular things. Do not feel like you have to know everything. Number 19, cite your sources and name your inspirations. You don't have to be perfect about this, but whenever you're sharing something that you learned from a particular person and you know who that is, give them credit for it. Tara McMullen is someone who I've heard say this many times, that really online entrepreneurs need to be getting better at citing our sources. And you can see what I just did there. I just cited Tara. Number 20, pitch your program joyfully and for longer than you probably think you should. You already told people that this was going to be coming and that the pitch was going to be a part of the presentation. And if your program is fantastic and really leads to transformation for the right person, which I know it does, that's why you created it, then you need to share that program joyfully. So take some time with it, take up some space, get into your body, and do not apologize or shrink as you share your program. Sell it with honesty and joy, and know that for the people this is right for, this is the best part of the presentation. Number 21, don't worry about conversion rates. During the webinar, do not be thinking about or worrying about how many people are going to sign up for your program. Just focus on being there and being with them and helping them make the right decision and helping them get value from your actual webinar. Number 22, leave time for Q&A. Now, it's okay if no one has a question or if no one's even there to ask a question, but do have a clear way for people to ask questions and bring a couple questions that you'll have in your back pocket that you know are common questions that folks would be likely to have just to get the ball rolling. And when you do that, you can say something like, here's something that people often ask me. And finally, clear your schedule right after the webinar. You might want to lie down. You might feel weird or alienated for a little while. You might feel depleted or full of anxious energy, or you might feel great. And any of that is okay. I have felt all of those different things. And sometimes you don't know what you're going to feel. So you might want to set up a call to debrief with someone who loves you. You might want to have just absolute silence. So set up for yourself a clear schedule after the webinar so you do not have to think about jumping into the next thing. And just give yourself a ton of love for doing the dang webinar. And now I would love to know, what did I miss? What of what I did share or what I didn't share has helped you to make your webinars go better for you and go better for your participants? I would really love to know. And you can email me at info@coachingwithannie.com to let me know. And even better, if you leave me a voice memo when you do that, I would love it. And now, if you want help creating your business beyond therapy, I would love to help you create a phenomenal offering that brings in a ton of money. And a great way to start with that is to grab my free mini course, and it's called Create Your Program Beyond Private Practice. So you can go and get that at rebeltherapist.me/mini, and you're going to just get it in your email box over the next week. So the first email is going to help you decide whether a business beyond private practice might be right for you and some reasons why it might not be right for you. And then you'll get your next email the next day, and that will go on for a week. So go over to rebeltherapist.me/mini for that free course. And I want to thank Jessica Riscala for producing this podcast and Cosmo Palms for editing it. And I really appreciate you listening, and I'll see you next time.